My name is Krishanka, and today I'm going to be doing a tour of my Minecraft build, if you will, my faction called Sekhmet. Um, for those who do not know and are not currently watching this via Twitch stream at the moment, Sekhmet is a faction on the Minecraft offline server TeamExtreme. Um, TeamExtreme is a fairly large server. We frequently, actually always, cap at 150 players. Um, we use the factions plugin. So what a faction basically is a plot of land that each person gets. Generally, what is considered 8 Minecraft chunks, but a little different for me. As you can see, there's more than 8 chunks to all of this. It is a staff faction. I am the only person in it because I am a TeamExtreme admin. But enough of that. Going to start previewing the faction. Now, I'm not going to be using any shaders or texture packs or anything like that. I do believe that Minecraft builds are better, at least built in standard vanilla texture packs, because then you're not fooling anyone as to the quality of the build. Then later on you can turn on a better texture pack and enjoy the view and turn on the shaders and make everything look nice and pristine. So, enough of that. Going to start previewing the faction. Sekhmet is an Egyptian-themed faction. It has influence of a lot of other things like, Arabian, even Greek buildings, and a lot of fantasy. So, here's the entrance. When you first warp to Sekhmet, this is where you start. Next to the statue of Bastet. The clouds are covering her a bit here. I should have turned those off, but I'll have to do that maybe later. You start at the city entrance. So I'll show you the city first, and then maybe we'll explore outside the walls of the city. Alright, so the first area we come to in Sekhmet, there is a large building to the right. This building was actually imported from TeamExtreme version 1, which was a couple of years ago now. It used to be the shop for my faction, but because I never really was good at keeping a lot of faction members, it never got used as a shop. Now it's here in my faction, and the insides have changed a bit. There are some statue of Anubis, or multiple Anubis. Does that make it a Nubai? I'm not really sure. Many statues here. Inside the statues are several buttons which label different parts of the faction. None of these buttons work right now because these buttons initiate command block commands, and I'm too lazy to put those in. Not only that, but these are stone buttons, and on TeamExtreme, if there's a stone button, unless your faction allows it, those buttons can only be used by people in the faction, and as we said earlier, I am the currently only member and basic owner of this faction, so that's that building. And then, to the left of the entrance is a small town within the city walls. There are several small towns all over the faction, but this is one of the larger small towns. A lot of the buildings here are pretty compact, sparsely decorated, but there are some decorations, small things, beds, kitchens, things like that. Up here, there's a horse. This horse used to have armor. Some desperate noob stole his armor, now he's naked. Sad horsey. Another building. There used to be more decorations in these buildings. Somebody keeps running a certain command that removes many of these decorations. It makes me very sad. He says it's an important command and that it needs to be run from time to time. I don't know how I feel about that, but I will just keep my thoughts to myself. I won't show you every building here, but just to show you a few more. Here is a small tomb within the faction. Inside this tomb, there is a golem. There are several of these golems around Sekhmet. These are Sekhmet golems. You can see that there are bubbles above this golem. Those bubbles should indicate something. If you attack this golem, you are not going to win. This golem will kill you. He's very fast, he's very strong, and he's very, very immortal. So, if you're looking for a few extra iron ingots, I do not recommend attacking the Sekhmet golems. They will win. Or it'll be a draw if you happen to have God mode and are one of our server donators. And you know, that's all well and good, but it's still pretty pointless. Here's the tavern. There's an inn above the tavern. Again, not very decorated, but functional, I suppose, as much as one can be. And then I'll go to the roof. And I'll show you one of my favorite things in this small town here. It is my clock tower. Now, why I love this clock tower. It is not just a clock tower. There is a lot of redstone in it. Just because it's a clock, and its redstone does not make it a redstone clock. It's actually activated by a hidden daylight sensor. And this was wired for me by Two-Face, who has wired several things for me before and always has the unfortunate encounter of having to fit lots of complicated things in the very small areas I provide him, as you can see through some of these windows here. So I congratulate him on the compactness of his designs, because they actually work with my building, which is very difficult to do. As you can see, as I'm speaking here and it's turning night, the clock switched from being to the left side to being to the bottom. And that's what this clock does. It basically tells the time of day. Now, yes, you could look in the sky and see where the sun is, but I think this is a lot cooler because it actually almost tells the time. So, when the sun is setting, the clock points to the west. When the sun has set, the light points down. When it is rising, it points to the east. Well, maybe not the east, but it points to the left anyway. What you would call it eastern direction on a map. And when the sun has risen and is up around noon every day, the light points to the sky. So, it's nighttime now, and that gives us a chance to see how the faction is lit at night. It's lit pretty well inside the city, but it is not perfectly lit. Many mobs can spawn here at night, so it is not a very safe faction to explore. There's actually some very dangerous areas, depending on whether the mob arena is running, of course, or not. Here is the armory. The anvils do not get a lot of use because, well, I don't really repair much, and so that's really how that goes. Storage room. Again, these chests don't get a lot of use because I really don't use a lot of items. In fact, the only things that get stored are items for other players who aren't even in my faction. So, go figure that. And then a small mage's tower. And this is just for anything that you might need for some of the more magical aspects of Minecraft. So down here, a few farms, things you would use in brewing, for instance, like melons and netherwort and carrots. On the second floor of the tower, my enchantment tables, another thing that goes unused, and a block that you don't often see used, the end portal. The end is not open on TeamExtreme. There is no fighting the Ender Dragon. Currently, we don't have the Nether open either, so this does nothing but make pretty swirly things. We will open the Nether in future releases of TeamExtreme. The famed and discussed V3 will have a full-time PvP arena in the Nether, so that's pretty exciting. But for now, we just have this, and yes, there are some brewing stands here too. Those don't get much use either. But it's for decoration, and maybe one day if somebody actually joins my faction, they'll have them to use. The next thing I'll show you is my library, which I'm walking next to right now. My library is decorated with art of the ancient Egyptian god Thoth on the front. Thoth was the ancient Egyptian scribe god, the god of wisdom, and I thought it would be fitting to put him on the library. So I'm just going to be lazy and go through the canal here instead of using the streets and bridges. Show you the inside. Lots of decoration in here. Not a lot of utility, but there are some enchanting tables. So for instance, this enchanting table, because of the books surrounding it, will give you a max enchantment of 28 to 29. There are others back here, which give different max enchants. That one's not labeled. This gives you a max enchant of 30. This gives you, I don't know what, again, not labeled. Oh, wait, I think the label is, no. I thought I hid the label behind the table, but I guess not. You can see the carpets here are unks. This is one of my favorite symbols, and it has a place in the emblem of Sekhmet, which is not widely used, but I do have one on a ship which was built for me, which I can show you later. So, not much more to the library, but there is one thing I would like to show you. I'm doing my best not to fly to everything, as tempting as it is, because I'd like to show you that everything does have access by foot, so that regular survival players can explore things here as well. And I know that prolongs my video, but bear with me. I think that showing you how to get places is really a good part of the tour of the faction, so. Here's the top floor. You can see the hieroglyphic writing here. At one point I knew what that meant. I don't remember. Maybe it means library. This is the last thing I wanted to show you in the library. I do have a map wall. It is still loading, but you can see it's getting there. So, where did we start? We started at the entrance, which is right here. And I'll just turn my screen on for one moment to show you with the crosshairs. Oh, there we go. So here's where we started. We came in through here. We went through the village. Oh, also we went down here. This was the portal room. This is where we went first, then through the village. And then down here, this was the blacksmith, the storage room, and then the tower. And then we came back up and through the library. So this square here, or rather this rectangle, is the city. I'll show you next the arena. The jail is here. The city shops are here. The barracks are here. And then the palace is here. My faction is not complete, by the way. I'm might have to do another video in the future when the faction is complete. But for now, I'll show you what I have done so far, because I am satisfied with a lot of the above ground appearance, at least, of the faction. To show you a few other things, since the map is a little more loaded now, by the way. This statue, the one we saw in the beginning, the statue of Bast, ancient Egyptian goddess of cats. There's a statue of Anubis here. Statue of Khnum, who is the god of the Nile's source in ancient Egyptian mythology. There is a statue of Sobek, who was also a god of water. And then over here, Wajet, who I believe was a goddess of Upper Egypt, but I'm not 100% certain. I have to check that again. Ra, an ancient Egyptian sun god and one of the creator gods. This statue is actually of my character, not an ancient Egyptian goddess, but I do have her as well. Osiris, ancient Egyptian god of the afterlife. Isis, ancient Egyptian goddess of magic. And then Sekhmet down here, who was an ancient Egyptian goddess of fire and of war. I might add a few more in the future, but for now, that's who I have. I have my harbor over here with a ship. I have a temple that was built by Mundog for me. I did make some updates to it later on. The ship was built for me by Darkra. Most of the things in this faction I did build, but I did have some help from other players at various points, so I will attempt to explain who has helped me with various things as I can, remember it. So, and then obviously there's a few other things. Hippie, who was in my faction when his account was active, has his house over here. I do still consider him a faction member, even though he's gone inactive in the faction currently. There's a garden over here next to the Osiris statue, the farm in front of the Sobek statue, and then all of this swamp here is also actually claimed by Sekhmet, and that's developed in a bit of a different direction, going away from the desert build, so I will try to show you all of that. You can see the indication of some pyramids here. They aren't finished yet, but if we have time, we'll get to that as well. So, enough wasting time looking at the map. Let's actually explore the faction. Carrying on first with the rest of the city. It is still nighttime. I would like to show you things in the daytime. To cheat or not to cheat. Players always freak out when we do this. They're like, who turned on the lights? I might have to hide this chat again, or I'll be tempted to moderate it, and then I won't get to, actually do a lot of touring again. There that goes. So, right now we're looking at the arena. And this arena was actually started for me by the player Cornelius. I have not seen Cornelius around in some time. He was an amazing builder, however. These doors here, this is a door, believe it or not, they do open, but they take their sweet time doing so. So until that happens, I'm going to show you just the outside of the arena. I did have to finish the arena. Some changes to the design were made, but I do give Cornelius credit for a majority of this design, especially the inside, which I don't think I could have ever had the patience to do without his help, so I certainly appreciate that. Just walking around and showing you how it looks from above as well, because there's a lot of detail in here to appreciate, I think. And I got blocked by a tree. Alright. So, the doors still have not opened. They take their sweet time doing this. I'm not sure why. Our tick rate on the server is actually very decent today. We've just located our server to a new server, and so I'm going to cheat and jump into the arena, by the way. It's not because of the tick that it's not opening. I think the redstone just needs some adjustments there. That's probably something I personally redstoned, and redstone is not something I should touch. So, if you were to go inside the arena and go into the go up the stairs, you would end up in this area, which is the spectators area. And to show you how you would get in, normally the doorway would be right here. You would come in through here, and if you didn't take the path, if you just went straight ahead, you would be somewhere quite different. You would be in the arena itself, walking over the Eye of Horus, which, by the way, the original inspiration for this arena was that the Eye of Horus, there would be the Eye of Horus in the middle, and then there would be a statue of Horus on one side, a statue of Set on the other. In ancient Egyptian mythology, Horus and Set fought each other. Horus lost his eye but won the battle. However, I never quite got around to that, and now I don't think I really have room for that anymore. Now the doors have opened, finally. I really need better employees, I think. They take forever to open that door. You'd go in here, go up here to the spectator stands. It is actually also possible, somewhere through there, to get here, which is the Queen's throne. And, of course, I am the Queen of the faction. I have some special abilities from here that nobody else gets, and that is to create things in the arena for people to actually fight. So, for instance, there's a creeper. I made this creeper happen. Other people cannot do this because other people are not in this faction, and these buttons are only usable by people in the faction. So, for the TeamExtreme players watching out there, don't get any funny ideas. Moving on. I'm going to be lazy and fly over the wall. There are ways in and out of here, like I said, but they take forever. These are the shops. I had great ambitions for these shops at some point. I had expected people would actually be able to use them. There actually are some shops here which could be used. I don't know what happened to this chest. That's very funny. However, the only people shopping here now are the zombies, unfortunately. They're not very good shoppers, so I'm just going to push them into the basement. There used to be things showing the various items on these item frames. Those things are not there anymore, for the same reason that some of my paintings and things keep disappearing. There is more decoration needed for these shops, but for now, they have what they have. Maybe one day I'll put the item frames back and actually stock the chests, but for now, there's just an impression of work to be done. I also have a pet shop. There is no chest to access this pet shop, just doors. It has horses and untamed wolves and ocelots. I did not just put these here, they've been here for a while. It is actually possible to do that in the game, just requires a few tricks. So, these are the shops, and yes, the butchery. I realize it's netherrack. It's the closest thing I could get to sliced meat. It actually looks rather grotesque. Yes, netherrack and redstone. That's how I do meat and blood. one more shop to show you. This isn't exactly a shop so much. This is one of the first buildings that I put in Sekhmet. This was an attempt to make sort of a indoor bazaar. There are cats here now. I am a crazy cat lady in Minecraft. But at one point, there were actually villagers in here when we still had villagers on TeamExtreme. Ah, yes, and my horse. I almost forgot about my horse. So, we we had a villager behind every stall, and you'd be able to trade with them. But at this point, it is no longer possible to have villagers on TeamExtreme, and the reason for that is the trades with them can interfere with our economy quite a bit, unfortunately. So we prefer to leave those out for now. And maybe there will be possibilities in the future, but as far as I'm aware, we will not be using villagers on the server. We have our own economy system for trades. And then out of the shops, we come to the barracks, which I'm not sure how, it is having barracks right out the shop. Like, what happens if somebody gets hit with a stray arrow? But that's how Sekhmet is designed. In barracks would be a place where soldiers would sleep and train. So I have quite a few beds that would be for soldiers, but again, no actual soldiers in Sekhmet. It is a very barren faction. And outside I have, of course, as we saw a bit, the training grounds. At one point, out here, I had some horses in these stalls. I don't know where they went. I assume that Noob came here through one day and killed everything in sight, so. This is not a shop chest. What is this? Dearest Christian Hanka H. Lovely. A gift for doing my artwork. P.S. It's survival. Terrorist. Ah, thank you, terrorist. What did you... Oh. Oh dear. I'm just gonna walk away slowly. Pretend I did not see that. But good to know. Hi, kitty. You saw nothing. So yes, I forgot about that gift. I do not know where one acquires so much survival TNT, but I'm scared. Maybe it's better that it's in my... no, it's not better in my care. This is the jail. Now my jail is a bit different. The cells are viewed from the outside, and they look inward on the execution area of Sekhmet. This is very intentional. I want my prisoners to know what's coming. Now, I don't have any prisoners right now. There are the remnants of a few on these chalking blocks and various devices for torture and execution. But no prisoners. I tried to have a few skeletons and things in here at one point, a few zombies, but they don't survive very long, so it's just going to have to be this way for now. Which I don't mind. Moving on. The last thing to see in Sekhmet right now, as I don't really have any other major buildings within the city, that is, currently planned out, is the palace. Now the palace is quite massive. You can see where the clouds are, and actually I'm going to remove these clouds momentarily here, if I can remember how. Didn't I have the cloud height off? There we go. This way we can see everything. It is a very large building. It is not completely Egyptian styled. It has a lot of Arabian influence. The reason for that is As much as I love Egyptian architecture is very cubical, and you would think that that would work very well in Minecraft. It does, in fact. Unfortunately, with cubicle buildings, they look very plain in Minecraft as well. And I like making things that are a little more rounded. I think that they look more interesting. When you go in, the first thing you get to is the throne room here. Now, this throne does hide a secret passageway. There's not much down here right now, some empty rooms. It's not very secret because it's open, but normally it's hidden. Well, there's an obvious lever right here, so not very hidden, I suppose, but hidden somewhat. Um, there's a basic lounge seating area here, which I suppose if there were gatherings and whatnot, this is where people would gather. I use flower pots for cups because it's really all I've got right now. And then over here, we have a little bit more of a comfortable looking seating area surrounding what looks like a brewing stand. And the idea here is that these are, of course, hookahs. I'm not sure about ancient Egypt, but I do believe that a lot of ancient cultures throughout that region would use hookahs as a very common pastime, even in recent years, and they would gather here, and this is something that they would do. So I thought that it would be very suitable in the faction. It's nothing that I've personally ever tried, but it did seem like something that would work in a faction like Sekhmet. So exploring more levels of the faction's palace. And this room, it's a very large room once again. There's a more formal seating area, and this level of the palace would be like a gathering place. I have a visitor. One thing that's nice about TeamExtreme, creepers don't explode and destroy things. And I know to some people that may seem lame. That may seem like it takes away the point of Minecraft. But when you have so many people on a server, the last thing we want is people taking creepers and luring them into other people's buildings and blowing them up. That would be very inconvenient. So creepers do not explode on TeamExtreme. Well, no, they do explode, but they don't destroy blocks. They'll still hurt you. And any items you might have on the ground. So they do a little bit of damage. Here's the dining hall. Again, this is where people would gather for parties and things if such a thing were ever to take place on TE or in Sekhmet. The kitchen, actually fairly small for a palace kitchen, but believe it or not, I was running out of room in this palace. And a room for storing wine. So the idea is that these are the wine racks. These are the kegs. And here are a bunch of beer glasses, which are for some reason stored on a shelf. That seems a little counterintuitive, but... And then the fountain in the middle here. This would be a room to hold ceremonies, for instance. So as you were coming away from the various gathering places, the dining hall, you would be able to gather here for ceremonies. I do have a balcony. You can somewhat overlook the city from here, but you have to kind of fly up to actually get up here. It's rather high. There's lights on the walls. These do come on at night, but they're off right now. So just walking around here. There are a few more things to this level. There are a few gardens, for instance. If I can get to it over here. With lilacs and other things. And then the way up to the next floor of the palace. You can see one of my statues from behind here. That's the Wadjet statue. Now this floor, this is one of my favorite floors. A lot of these rooms remain undecorated. They will probably be some very basic seating areas. This is the theater floor. You have some tables here and an overlook which looks down at the stage. So let's go down there and look at that a little more closely. Ah, one of my kitty cats. There are cats all over Sekhmet. I like my cats. So here's the main room of the theater. A couple of Anubis statues here as well. Never really put on a play here, but I think it would be fun. I don't know how that would work, a play in Minecraft. Probably would work a lot better with more alcohol involved. Maybe not with this community. On the outside of the theater floor are other statues. I'm not sure what I was getting at with these statues. Possibly an ibis-like thought or something. We'll go with or something. I would have built a statue of Thought. I quite like Thought as an Egyptian god. But Hippie, when he was in the faction, I don't think would have liked ibis statues. Ibises, or ibis, however you would like to say it, are actually very loud, obnoxious birds, as it turns out, and I don't think he's a fan of them because he gets them quite a bit in his own yard. The next floor, and possibly the final floor for now, is the Queen's Chambers. Again, very open. There's a very large bed consisting of about 8 beds, Minecraft beds, in the middle of the room. A warm seating area, just in case it gets cold, which desert nights apparently can get cold. A lion statue like those in front of the palace. I also have my best attempt at a hot tub. And more empty rooms, which will, I'm sure, eventually be filled. I just haven't thought of what to put in them. A small, more private dining area, of course, for the Queen's more personal guests. I'm starting to get lost in my own build, apparently. There are higher parts. There are... Hello, kitty. I'm going to have TeamExtreme players counting the amount of mobs in my faction, I'm sure of it. It's one of the towers. Maybe I will put an iron door here when those come out and lock somebody in my tower. I haven't decided yet. Depends if I want to be an evil ruler of Sekhmet or not. Who am I kidding? Everyone knows that I am. That's why all of my subjects are dead. Another empty tower. Now our render distance on the server is quite low, but and my fog level is pretty high right now, but we're quite up there, I think. at this level, we are at Y 130, and see, here I am reading the chat. Goodness gracious. I had to look. For 1 minute I had to look. Do I want to know? This is scary. I don't want to be dealing with this right now, so I'm going to hide that again. I know, I'm a very bad server moderator. But I can't. I can't do something that I'm going to put on YouTube later while trying to moderate the server. Things will never end. And then I'll get a logit request, and then I'll get a grief report, and it'll never end. So I think we finally got the sun rising. Or setting, I'm not really sure at this point anymore. And you can see just from the edge of my palace here, one of my statues, which I find quite fun. This is a statue of my own character. So, to actually show you, this is the skin that I use. And that's her. And I have drawings of this character as well, and drawings of this particular outfit, but you can't really fit much in the space of a character, so it's as best as I could do. So, that is it for the city of Sekhmet, but the city is hardly all there is to it. Actually, there is a little bit more to the city, and it's far from complete, but I can show it quickly here. I still haven't decided if the sun's going up or down. I don't think it knows. Looks like it's going down. Which means that I've literally spent all Minecraft day in this town here. Or have I? No, I might have changed the time earlier. There's several ways into the Undercity. And the Undercity is basically a set of catacombs and sewers. Again, quite incomplete. But one of the easiest ways, I think, is through the basic teleport building. If I can actually find the correct stairway down. Alright. I lied. This is not one of the easiest ways in, as I seem to have blocked that off. Let us try through the blacksmith. Here we go. Yes, there is an actual smelting room to this as well. I almost forgot. It would be very useful if I actually, smelted things. This is the outside of the library, as you can tell, because there are books on the wall. The underground of the teleportation room. I'm going to fly, it's a bit faster. And basically what's here is just all of the various basements interconnected to all of the buildings. It is not a very complete set of catacombs, but I think one day it'll work very nicely for a more dangerous part of Sekhmet where you can wander dark rooms, very dark rooms. For instance, this is the basement of the barracks here. I do intend to have some spawners for training one of these days. Again, more of an aesthetic thing, something that soldiers would ideally train from, but also has, normal usage, I suppose. Right now we're under the walls of Sekhmet. The walls are very interesting because the walls of Sekhmet actually wrap all around the city and can be traveled through on many levels. So let me get to a point where I can actually climb those and show you. One of the easiest ways to enter the walls is, of course, from the city's entrance, though I believe I do have other entrances. This shows you what they look like from the inside on one end. But there is a staircase up in one of the towers. Another level. But if you really want to see Sekhmet, this is the best level to go to. The highest floor of the wall is, of course, outside, and is great to actually preview the entire faction at a glance because it shows you both the inner and outer parts of Sekhmet. So, I would like to show you the outside of Sekhmet now. Hopefully this part of the tour won't take quite as long. It's a larger area, but things are far more spread out. The idea is that this is the wilderness of Sekhmet. These are the vast deserts. Not a very vast desert, but as much as I could fit in one desert biome. I've showed you earlier the statue of Bast. She holds a basket and a sistrum. The sistrum is like a rattle, a musical instrument. She was also a goddess of music. This basket contains a secret, but I won't tell you what that secret is. If you explore here one day, there may be a way into the basket. I hope you can find it. Statue of Anubis, ancient Egyptian god of embalming, and was also a god of the dead before that was sort of taken over by Osiris. Later dynasties. He's sort of on the edge of the swamp here. My swamp is a little different. My swamp has real willow trees. I love willow trees. They are my favorite tree. There isn't much to Anubis right now. He does not have an underground area to explore. Some of these statues do. For instance, if you go into the shrine for Bastet, there is a room. And I have moons here. I use moons to represent her because in some periods of time in Egypt she was also a moon goddess. There is a room here with some cat statues. Not much more to it, but that's a small hidden thing. Hopefully that will be expanded at some point. Many of these shrines have small areas where you can toss something into a pool. In essence, you can donate it to that god or goddess. Of course, I never check those pools, so if you make a donation, don't expect it to be found anytime soon. There is a road that goes all the way around the city. So here's another town. I can't quite get down there yet to show you the other building. This town used to be built on top of a, well, actually is still built on top of a set of hidden chambers, and I don't think that they are easily accessed. Oh, maybe through here. Right. So, a little bit out of the theme of Sekhmet, if I were to go down in here, which I won't today, used to be a set of rooms when Two-Face was still in the faction, and had stuff to put his redstone where it wouldn't be exposed on the outside of Sekhmet, but he could still do all of his things. And so this was in essence his little village. I built the village, he got the underground. I used to have a golem wandering around here, but he seems to have vanished. Possibly in a kill-all. So, going back over here. Before I forget. This is the Sekhmet Inquisition. This was actually built for me by Kurisu, who is also no longer in the faction. I finished with some details like the clay designs around it just to give it a little bit more color. The Inquisition, of course, is a more brutal place, so jump down here for a second. Some things may or may not have taken place here on the various chopping blocks. In case, you know, the jail where the prisoners were to look at what would come of them was not bad enough, this is where we would take care of our interrogation. You can guess that these are not, you know, tripwires, but racks on the wall and things for tying up different prisoners and torturing them with things like feathers and comfortable chairs. I mean, what? And of course, another map. This one is not quite complete. This is an earlier version. I forgot to mention, most of this map was actually made for me by Stephen Poor. He took the time to take several maps and fly around my faction, and I'm very grateful for that, because I don't think I would have had the patience to do that myself. But that's where that's kept. And I'm sure there's more to explore to the Inquisition, but I don't want to give everything away. I do want players to actually come onto TeamExtreme and explore things themselves. And the faction farms. Now, these faction farms, believe it or not, look like normal farms. However, there are levers. At one point, before he was even creative, Two-Face went through here and redstoned almost all of this. And in the end, we might have had a little bit of help from World Edit to finish things off. But all of these can actually be farmed. I'm not going to do that right now, because if I farm one of these plots, then I'm going to want to replant them. And I really don't have a need for all of this wheat right now. So it's still really aesthetic, but it's nice because it can be farmed very easily and efficiently. And at one point, this was actually used quite frequently, because our admin shop buys pumpkins and wheat and a lot of these other things currently. And while that may not be the case in the future, right now it's extremely useful, because back then we were saving a lot of money to get EVIP for players like Two-Face and others, so that they could build more easily. And EVIP on TeamExtreme is basically creative mode. Normally it would be a $100 donation, but some players on the server will actually take in-game cash for and donate for you, and so we were lucky with that. Looking over the faction farm, by the way, is my statue of Sobek. There is another shrine here. There's nothing built really under his shrine. I've started to make certain things, but never quite finished them. However, I will show you something. There is a secret in all of my statues. There is a way into them. And all of the insides of the statues look pretty much the same. There's usually a small room like this, a way up hidden behind a pillar to go into a room, which again seems like the final place until you go up the steps into here, through here. Well, these rooms are very compact, very difficult to navigate, but if you do manage to find your way through, you get quite a view at the end. This does not work unless you can fly, which is ironic. However, put the lever down, you go up through his crown, and you can see the back. And you can see the hint of my massive willow tree, which is in my swamp behind Sekhmet. You know, you get tired of building with sandstone after a while, and you have to build with something else. Because if you don't, then players will keep, you know, teasing you and saying that you must have x-rayed for all of this sand. And I'm getting quite tired of hearing it. So a skeleton of a dragon here. I love the idea that, you know, this swamp was possibly populated by major large creatures at some point, and they have since deceased, and the swamp has been taken over by Sekhmet. So but yes, players like to joke that I x-ray for sand. That joke was initially started by one of our moderators, like I mentioned before, Hippie. It was taken by Zavidog and just blown completely out of proportion. And I never heard the end of it after that. Now every player on the server likes to make this joke, and it drives me quite insane because I think else. However, that is the joke. By the way, another not very sandy building is my swamp temple. I purposely built this to look like it has gone into ruin. So it looks like it's been griefed, but actually this is very intentional. There are blocks everywhere. It is possible to navigate through this whole thing. It's very fun too, but I won't do that right now. And anyway, I'm better at building things than navigating them. I'm very, very bad at parkour in Minecraft, so I'll leave this to be explored for players who do log on to the server. Going back to the statue of Sopek, I'll show that off a little better. He has a very large crown that's hard to see unless you fly up. But I like his crown. He's one of the swamp gods here. On the other side, because I did not get to show this off with Anubis earlier, and actually if you follow the road you do come out here briefly. There's a donkey in the middle of my faction. This donkey belonged to a player at one point. I thought it used to have a name, but I don't see the name on it anymore. I think it was Smokesarn's donkey. I don't remember. So, hidden tunnel here. Not very hidden because, you know, the road goes right through it. Small underground grotto. Comes out to a large statue of Khnum. Khnum is holding water. He was the ancient Egyptian god of the Nile's source. He's a ram god. A similarly very elaborate crown to Soybek. There's a secret to this shrine. Just not a very good one. This shrine was initially built as a witch spawner because there was a witch hut here. That hut should still work, however, I have somehow deconstructed the spawner to not work very well anymore. And I'm sure one of my former faction members, Meligati, would be very sad to hear that because I know he worked very hard on it. Just the spawner never seemed to work properly anyway. So there is a way down and a very elaborately built shrine by Meligati down here. If I can get to it, it takes forever. The statues, of course, were built by me, but this underground area was something I think he did a while back. If you get all the way down, I get lost in here because I didn't build it. Actually get lost in my own buildings. There is a crocodile thing, almost like another kind of homage to Sobek, where you were supposed to be able to fight the witches as they got down here. I don't remember exactly how it was supposed to work, but it's a very nice looking room, so. That is a player I have not seen in a very long time. I think he joined another faction briefly, maybe Mighty Reds or something like that, and then disappeared completely. I haven't heard from him. Anyway, let's go back to the faction farm because I do have one more thing there to show. No, I have two more things there to show. Two very large things that will take quite a bit of time. Really? Hello, Hurricane. I thought I said nobody TP to me. This bothers me a lot, and that hasn't been happening for a while. Some strange chunk grid error that happens with the redstone. The first thing I want to show you is this. This is Hippie's house. And because it is Hippie's house, there are dogs named after Hippie's dogs, and cats named after Hippie's cats. There are also a lot of sandwiches in this house because, you know, it's Hippie, and he wants you to make him a sandwich, provided, you know, you have the skills and are female. This is one of the first things I built in Sekhmet. He started to build something one day. He built the base of the house, and I kind of feel bad about this, but I got carried away. He had the inspiration to do something, and of course I took his project and went crazy with it because his little spurt of inspiration gave me a big, you know, chunk of inspiration, and I ended up basically finishing the house overnight. It was pretty intense. I don't know what that is. But some things in here, like the stairwell, for instance, he actually, you know, put the lava behind the ice. Used to be you wouldn't see lava behind ice. Now you can. As the bedroom is still here. And the upper deck. All the way up into the tower, which I'm going to cheat a bit. This is where the enchantments are. Now, that's not the coolest part of the house to me. The coolest part is actually downstairs. His entire house was built for utility at some point because, again, it was the first thing we really built in Sekhmet. And so, in addition to a lot of things with utility, there was a lot of design. We have the pool out front, so we had to do something with that space. And I made a nice decoration. Some gifts that would be made for us at some point for Prince Hippie and Princess Krishanka. Cookies and things. The storage chests. He may still have things in these. And of course the furnaces. A small little area over here where he can repair, get water, enchant, brewing stands. Oh, and before I forget, a very elaborate set of mazes and things. This place is quite intense the way it's built. There is a jail maze. I might still remember how to get through it, but probably not. Another portal. I don't recommend trying to go here because you don't get into the nether, and this will close when you walk away. That seems like alright, you'll teleport back to spawn, except that nether portal doesn't let you bring up your chat console. You could get trapped in there pretty bad. I don't recommend using it. Maybe I shouldn't be telling people that. Hey buddy, come over here, let me just build this portal around you here real quick. Oh no worry, it won't do anything bad. So I'm going to go back here. And, oh, there's so many secrets in here I don't even remember. I think there used to be... a hidden... Maybe I shouldn't be showing all of his secrets. There is a tomb here. It is possible to sleep in this bed. I also don't recommend. You will be forced to slash spawn if you sleep in that bed and it's nighttime. So, more catacombs. Not sure what happened here. And then the next level down here. Is there one more thing? Is there something I'm forgetting? There is something I'm forgetting, but I'll be able to show it soon. These are the farms. This is obviously redstoned a bit, and you can see the indication of cocoa beans. Those can be harvested from the next level. All of this is redstoned. It can be harvested with redstone and water. But again, I don't want to replant, so I'm not going to bother with that for now. And then, these are, I believe, automatic smelters. I just don't remember exactly how it works. I had signs up explaining it, but those signs disappeared. On the topic of automatic smelters, there are also some automatic brewers here that Two-Face put in for me at some point. So I feel sad that they don't get used, but they are here and can be used. Lots of labeled chests for potions and potion ingredients and things. And if you're too lazy to use the automatic ones, there's manual ones on the wall. Infinite water source. And this views the room that you saw before. This is the portal room. Lots of hidden passageways. I'm not going to explore every one because that would take forever. Next room of the house. We were in the furnace room. The sugarcane and farm storage. Funny story about the sugarcane. This is how we got most of our profit when we were saving to get EVIP for various people. I would come in here and punch it for hours and it would make this sound. I would be on TeamSpeak and Darkra would be in the channel and she'd be like, "What's that sound?" And she would make fun of me and she'd go, "This is a sound. What sound? The sound just keeps going chicka 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 chicka." And it would be, I use voice activate and it would be Minecraft playing the sugarcane sound through my speakers. So now every time I make that sound effect to her, we both end up cracking up because we remember the time when all I would do is harvest sugarcane for hours during the um, beginnings of V2. And then we have our pumpkin farms. Um, Another thing that greatly helped us, say for the EVIP for many people. I think this is another thing that I had to face redstone for me at some point. And I feel bad because redstone like this isn't fun to do. It's very plain, ordinary, boring. It takes a long time to do everything, especially if you are a survival player, which I think he might have been at the time. So I think he did one level, and then we had some world edits done. And that's very fortunate because nobody needs to be placing, redstone for hours and hours, especially when you have to crouch and look in weird directions just to make it work correctly. These do work on a lever. I don't mind harvesting it because they will come back, unlike some things. However, I'm not going to go through and collect every item. So I'll just get rid of them that way. All those pumpkins. There's a spider spawner in here. It doesn't get used much. It's next to a skeleton farm. There's also this room here, by the way, which is a slime chunk. I don't see many slimes in here, but sometimes there are. And it's sectioned off for each floor. Slimes will spawn in 3 high rooms. I've seen many large, like the biggest slime in there many times. This room is for growing mushrooms. It doesn't get used much, but it can happen. This used to be a egg spawn, but the chickens died, or you'd hear them going the wrong way. More pumpkin farms. And this is where you would kill the skeletons. There aren't any falling right now. It does automatically kill the skeletons when they fall, but if you were to switch this lever, it moves the floor 1 block. That 1 block is enough to make sure that the skeletons don't automatically die when they fall. That means that you can kill them for experience. That's why it says up auto kill, down XP farm. And I think we just had a skeleton die. So I find it a very useful mechanism to have a spawner which does both auto killing and manual killing for experience. And then the final level just overlooks the tree farm, so I'll just jump down there. Just different plots set out for different types of trees, one which clearly was not replanted, and vines which could be harvested with shears if one had those. So not a very efficient tree farm, not redstoned or anything like that, but it's here and it works and it's nice to have. Climb up here. It is a rather long stairwell. Now remember, we got into this stairwell from inside of Hippie's house, but when you come out of the stairwell, going the other direction, there's another house. And it's like a smaller house, like a mage's house that's behind here. And I say mage's house because the top room has another enchanting table and things like that. And the whole house has lots of books and typically looks like a place where a wizard would live. So, one more thing. We always noticed that Hippie's house lacked a kitchen, which is very ironic since, he's always telling people to get back in the kitchen. Get back in there. I have a pig here. This pig is named Bacon, by the way. I don't know how to put bacon in a fridge, so I just named the pig Bacon. More sandwiches. Beds. This bed belongs to Flutterdash. I'm sure the other beds were meant to be labeled at some point, but I think he intended for all of the females on the server to live in the servant's quarter behind his house and make him sandwiches all the time. That seemed to be the general goal there. So, and then one last thing to show you in Sekhmet. Not Sekhmet, but the Sekhmet farm. There's still a lot to the faction left. There are plenty of ways into the area I'm going to show you. By the way, this is my ranch part of the farm. I'm pretty sure I don't exceed any limits right now, but I'll just look away before somebody starts counting sheep, you know. And go down here, and there is actually a way into this area from Hippie's house and from several other parts of Sekhmet. There's a room. And in this room, as you could see, this was one of the levels of his farm, and so you would actually get into here from here. But then going down here, this area is not exactly complete. It looks like we've just walked into a cave that's been turned to dirt. And this is the outer level. But I'd always wanted some gardens and greens in Sekhmet, and I couldn't find a place above ground to put them. I put it underground. And this is one of my favorite areas because when I built it, I got to have a lot of fun with it, and I didn't have to be very precise like I have to be with most of my builds. It's a lot of floating, or not necessarily floating, but almost hoodoo-like dirt formations and waterfalls and trees and vines and things, and it's just really a fun area to be in. Turn on Gamma Bright quickly so you can really see the details, because it is a rather dark area typically. But that's what that is, and yes, the room is a little too perfectly round, but I don't mind that too much. I think the round room came from a world edited sphere that Phlox made for me before I was an admin. It was a very, very large sphere, but it did not crash the server. So I'm grateful for all of the help that I got making this faction with the world edits and things, especially before I could do them for myself. Sometimes I think that nagging for all the world edits is actually the only reason they made me an admin. Here, do it yourself. So, going back up the stairs. Let's see if I can find one of the other ways out of here. Yes. This way. There's a tripwire right there that lets you into one of the storage rooms here. How do you get back down? You open a chest. The floor falls out beneath you. Or normally it does. Today it doesn't feel like doing so. It's just showing me to be a fool. So, probably the reason for that is because I'm not actually opening the chest, am I? Oh my word. Excuse me. There we go. all of these strange admin toys that I forget about having. Alright, so finally moving past the farm, and these random chests that once belonged to somebody who was going to build here and didn't. You can see my faction is absolutely just surrounded by savannah. Savannah was not in the normal map generation. I put that there. I like savannah. Not as much as deserts, but I like savannah. I'm cheating, I'm flying. I'm not supposed to do that. Actually, the road goes under a tunnel temporarily because I didn't feel like building the road over the mountain. When you come out by the statue of Wadjet, which means we are actually near the Sekhmet harbor. The statue of Wadjet is not, does not have a complete chamber beneath her, but the shrine is here. And it is possible to, let me word this correctly, go inside the statue, at least the base. I gave it a more earthy theme. I thought that would be appropriate for Wadjet. So here we're at the harbor. Before I explore the harbor, I'm also going to show you the statue of Ra, the Egyptian sun god, which is why the inside of his shrine is very bright and well lit and has many windows and lots of white. So, going back over here, and I'll show you this in a moment. I like floating islands. This is the Sekhmet harbor. There aren't many boats in it right now. I do plan on putting more boats in it eventually to make it look a little more populated. You can see some of the storage crates and things. There is a harbor town with more buildings, one of the smaller towns here. There is a obelisk, or what is sometimes referred to as Cleopatra's Needle. The ancient Egyptians made these as an attempt to make a really tall pyramid. I need not say that they were also a bit phallic in representation. That was intentional on the Egyptians' part. It is possible to go up into the needle. It is almost like a lookout tower here, but I'm not going to climb the entire thing. I'm going to show you instead my ship. I am very happy with this ship. This ship has one of the only visible emblems for Sekhmet on it, and this was built for me by Darkra. And I could just devote an entire video probably to exploring the inside of this ship, but I'll try to make this brief. Darkra is a much better decorator than I am. This is the ship's galley. I love the floating, or the hanging potted plants. I think that's adorable. There's actually a warp to this ship. I just don't remember what it is. The crew's quarters are here. I believe this goes to the captain's quarters, as the sign indicates. And a nice big gold-plated bed. More crew's quarters. The beds are broken. I have to fix that later. And, of course, because it is a Sekhmet ship, it has a very elaborate torture room for the prisoners. We don't just lock them up, we have to, you know. This is just the ways of my faction. And people wonder why there's no one in my faction. So, there's actually more to explore to this ship, but I'm just giving you a basic glance through things. It's one of my favorite builds in my faction, and I didn't even make it. I just love the detail that Darkra puts into things like this. The snake on the front. This was inspired based on something, I just don't remember what. And then just quickly, because it's here, they're not very elaborately designed, but I've got some floating islands and 3 pyramids, almost like the pyramids of Giza. So people are always like, why are there no pyramids in your faction? So I decided to make them, but to be a little unique, I made them on floating platforms because at least that's not random pyramids. I think pyramids are one of the Minecraft builds that you can make, and so I tend to avoid them in Sekhmet. And when I used to have actual faction members, I had to tell every one of them, try to make something other than a pyramid because, well, let's be realistic, it's the first thing anyone thinks about when they join an Egyptian faction, and a faction full of pyramids would be very boring to me. The sun went away. I think either. I think it's raining, but I don't know. Maybe it's just dark. Yep, it's raining. It doesn't rain in the desert in Minecraft. One of the reasons I've always loved the desert is because when it's raining, I don't have to hear it. I love the sound of rain in real life. I think it's very relaxing, but in Minecraft it's rather loud and gets old quickly. So, going along, we have the Sekhmet Temple. This is one of the first things built in V2 Sekhmet. This was built for me by Mundog. There used to be a large King Tut head here. That is not there anymore. I don't think it really fit on here very well. So I did make some small edits, but almost all of this was him. I did make the garden in the front. If you fly up, it is an Ankh, because again, that is a symbol I am obsessed with. It's kind of in my name. Being messaged. I'm going to not respond to that right now. That's what I get for going out of Vanish, isn't it? So, there's not much to see to this temple from here. There's a garden. I love this garden. I've meant to emulate this in other places and haven't gotten to it. I don't know. It's very bright because of the jungle biome that it's next to. I just find it very beautiful, especially for something in Minecraft. There is, however, more to this temple than meets the eye. Underground. And this is part of the temple that I did add on myself later on. If my faction had a cult, I think this is where the cult would gather. I'll show you from this level. It is this room right here. Now you'll see this again somewhere, actually very soon, but this is a bust of the goddess Sekhmet, and lots of very simple statues on the side here. The lighting is very unique for Minecraft. As you can see, there's lots of glowstone, but nothing's really fully lit here. Everything's really subtle, and I love that. I love recessed lighting in Minecraft. I hope that never goes away, though it sounds like they might do something with that eventually. And then my Shrine of Sekhmet. In TeamExtreme V1, when I first created this faction, this was one of my first. This was actually close to the F home, and this was my house, so to speak. I initially designed it in survival mode and built it block by block in TE because people, had to do it that way, especially back then. I was a regular player. I had to build it in... It's snowing here. This is very suspicious. I had to build it in survival mode because I did not have creative on TE at the time. And I actually ended up getting creative mode just to finish the statue because it was taking me that long to rebuild. But here on V2, obviously, it was imported from V1. There's a blood shrine in here. One of the myths of Sekhmet is that at some point in Egyptian mythology, she was the guardian of Ra. And as the guardian of Ra, she heard that the people of Egypt were conspiring to kill Ra, and she would not have that. So, at some point, she set out to have retribution on the people of Egypt, and she would have slain them all, except that Ra spilled wine or beer in the desert that was dyed red to look like blood, and she stopped and she lapped it up and she drank it, and when she was drunk she became a lot more docile and turned into the goddess Hathor or Bastet, depending on the legend, and was instantly calmed down. So I find it easy to associate Bastet, or not Bastet, but Sekhmet with the color red and with blood in a lot of my builds and other personal stories and things. I used to write a bit of fiction based on Egyptian mythology, but I haven't done that so much lately. These storage rooms are so old that they have lockets that I think I placed in V1 and somehow were imported over. I find that quite intense. This is broken. That's very amusing. And so is this. These beds actually from the outside are meant to look like a tongue. But for some reason some of the things around here have been broken and need repaired. This is a savanna, one of the savannas around the faction that I mentioned earlier. This one's a little unique. There are animals in the savanna. Giraffes and prowling lions and villages where the fire has been put out because, you know, noobs like to do that. Elephants. I had a lot of fun thinking of ways to build these little mini animals. There are ostriches around here, but the ostriches were designed by Kaiser. I don't know where the ostriches are. They're somewhere. She caught me building one day and added some ostriches, which work for a savanna. Ah, yes, a crocodile. It doesn't look very crocodile-y, but I mean, at this scale, it's the best I could do, right? So, yeah, I had to find something to put in a savanna. I never know what to build in savannas. It makes me really sad. I think there are some hippos somewhere. Where are the hippos? Here are the hippos in the water, of course. I'll have to put a rhino somewhere. I never got to making a rhino. There's the ostriches. I think they're cute. Very convincing. It's entertaining for me how these little animals turn out because you could tell what they are even though they're so small in scale. This is a pig. This is an actual pig. It's not, you know, go away pig. Better look at the Sekhmet statue again. It is nighttime again. And go back over. I showed you this statue before because it is the statue of my character. But I'll come back here again briefly. There used to be a different building here. This used to be where Ryota's house is. And his house is still on TE, but I've moved it to a kind of province of Sekhmet, which I can show a little later. So in place of it, I put my statue of my own character. There used to be a statue, it's very similar to this in Spawn, or not in Spawn, but near Spawn. It was recently, I replaced it with a Connect 4 building for Two-Face, so I thought that that would be a lot more useful for players than just looking at a big statue of me. Here's the Osiris Shrine. Nothing built underground yet. He's a little different than some of them. He's posed in his embalming garbs. I can't think of it right now. His mummy wrapping, so to speak, with his crook and flail. And a very earthy theme in here with acacia trees. I have a large acacia tree that I built in the shrine next to him. This was something, the walls had been started initially by Cornelius, the same person who built my arena, but it was very unfinished and I had to find something to do with it, so I made some gardens. Not exactly hanging gardens per se, but gardens on various levels here, and a tree that you could look up through. There's actually a way down here through here. It's another one of those things that I have intentions to do more with eventually, but for now, it stays at this. This sugar cane has been here, I think, since this land was built, back before we were even really doing any building in factions. But I was setting the land aside. And then my statue of Isis. This has been updated recently. There is an older version which I can show later. Isis was the goddess of magic. There is a chamber below her that's pretty well developed, and was actually started by Dominarian, who, I don't want to say too much, but I think that the name Isis is pretty relevant to her, and that's why I wanted her to have something to do with this shrine. So she started building the Servants of Isis. It's a statue that we both kind of worked on, or the Daughters of Isis, not the servants, I should say. The servants are the paintings on the back walls here. And so I like the color purple in association with magic. I think that works really well. So this is one of the more developed chambers, and I really like this room. It's just obviously the portal doesn't work, but this is where any donations made would be picked up. People don't donate anything except a block of dirt or a block of sand once in a while. But if you throw something down here, it actually goes into that chest. I think that's pretty cool. And then another small village. This one has more of a magical theme and is a little bit more vibrantly colored. So if I weren't so lazy, there would actually be shop stalls and things here. This village is a little bit populated sometimes. I don't know if it's populated today, but sometimes in here you can find witches hidden about. They just don't feel like coming out today. Sad day. It has its own library. There's still things that need to be added in here. Oh, whoa. Speak of the, well, witch, I suppose. Something hidden in here. Let's try this. Again, one of those things that I had to have help from two-face redstoning because I'm absolutely useless. And that's how you get in here. There's nothing to it yet, but one day maybe there will be. I like doing things like that where you have to throw an item on a table. in order to access something like that. So that's almost it for Sekhmet. There's one last area I would like to show you guys, and that's a sort of province where I've started storing some builds that either aren't mine or extra things that I haven't quite found a place for in my faction, and that's over here, so I can show off some of these things. Here's a dragon that was built for me by none other than Kaiser, because dragons, and then a little statue guy, who I'm surprised is still here and has not been eaten by the dragon. I like him because he is red and gold, and I like those colors together. Another Egyptian statue. This one is not of an ancient Egyptian god, but of Hippie. And he is holding a diamond block, because if you've ever met Hippie, Hippie likes to place diamond blocks and also signs on everything that he sees. So, going further through here, here's a design that I started. Oh, hey, look, I found a diamond block. I'm sure if I log blocked it, it would come back with Hippie's name. Something I started that I would possibly at some point line the walls of a tomb with, but I haven't found a place for it yet. Here's Ryota's old house. And here's my old statue of Isis. I thought I had something else over here. Ryota actually had quite a bit of detail in his old house. And his animals are still here. That's quite fun. I don't know where this is, but I thought there might have been one more thing over here, or at least there was at some point, and I don't know where it's gotten to. But it was the head that, you die. It was the head that Mundog started for me. And I thought it would be down here, but it's not. So that might just be saved in a schematic somewhere. I used to have it over here. At some point, I may actually allow some of this land for people to build things for me, but for now, it's a bit of extra space for, like I said, things that I've either moved out of the faction or need to work on elsewhere. I would actually like to use this land for other people to do things for me, though. I would very much enjoy having some sort of thing for faction members, if I should ever get them. Anyway, that does conclude my video touring through Sekhmet. I'm sure when I end the video I'll think of 10 more things I could have shown you guys, but for now, I think I've certainly shown you enough, and it's probably been quite a while since I started this, so coming back to the desert, I'm sure I'll continue to expand the faction. I'll continue to build underneath my shrines and more into the basement. There's actually a very large underground area that I haven't shown you that's just completely emptied out beneath the city, and one day I hope to do something very impressive down there, but I still haven't decided what. So until that time comes, I'm just sort of working with what I've got, and hopefully one day I'll be able to do another tour when everything really is finished. So thank you for watching, and if you aren't a player on TeamExtreme, I certainly hope you can join us at TeamExtremeMC.com and maybe see our server for yourself one day. There's certainly more to see than just Sekhmet. There are some really amazing builds that just need to be witnessed for themselves. I don't think a video does them justice. So, one more thing before I go. I'm going to show you what things do look like when the textures and things are turned up. So, let's try Misa's texture pack and some of the best shaders. If Minecraft doesn't crash, that would be the best thing, but we'll see what happens. There we go. The latest preview of Sonic Ether makes things look very wet when it rains. Which is ironic because it's not exactly raining here, is it? However, I think it's a beautiful look. And if I take you into the city real quick, you'll see just how magnificent it is. You can see the reflection of everything on the water. This fog, for instance, is incredible. It adds an entirely new level of atmosphere to things. So this is what I mean when I say that it's nice to have things that look nice in the default texture pack, but once, you know, the rewarding thing is that if you build in default and then switch to something else, things can really stand out. And this is what happens when you do switch to something else. So here's what happens when the rain is off and the sun is setting. Things still look a little wet from the rain. There's the sunset. And I think that's a good way to end the video. So, again, thank you guys for watching. And again, I hope you get to join us on Team Extreme. So, goodbye.